I didn't catch my husband cheating by accident. I caught him because he underestimated me, and that one mistake cost him everything. The strange part? I didn't confront him right away. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even ask questions. Because by the time I found out, I already had something more powerful than anger. I had proof. Real proof. The kind that doesn't need arguing. The kind that doesn't need explanation. The kind that ends everything, quietly. And the worst part for him? He had no idea. Not when he smiled at me. Not when he lied to my face. Not even when he told me, "I would never hurt you." Because while he was saying that, I was already planning the moment. I would expose him. But before I tell you how it all ended, you need to understand how it started. Because this story, it didn't begin with cheating. It began with trust. And trust is what made the betrayal so perfect. The life that looked perfect. If you saw us from the outside, you would think we were happy. Not just okay, not just fine, actually happy. My husband, Adam, was the kind of man people admired. Confident, successful, charming in a quiet way. He wasn't loud. He didn't need attention. But when he spoke, people listened. And when he looked at you, it felt like you mattered. That's how he got me. Not with big promises, not with dramatic gestures, but with consistency. Or at least, what looked like consistency. We met at work, started as friends, then something more. And before I knew it, we were building a life together, a home, a routine, a future. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of believing I knew him. And honestly, there were no major red flags, no big fights, no dramatic moments, just small things, tiny details. That didn't seem important at the time. Late nights at work, extra meetings, occasional distance, but nothing serious, nothing that made me question everything. Until one night, everything changed. The first suspicion. It started with something simple, too simple, a phone call. Adam was in the kitchen, I was in the living room, and his phone rang. He looked at it, and for a second, his expression changed. Just for a second. But I saw it, and that was enough. He quickly picked up the phone and walked into the other room, closing the door behind him. That had never happened before, not once. And something about that moment didn't feel right. Not wrong enough to accuse him, but not normal enough to ignore. When he came back, I asked casually, "Everything okay?" He smiled. "Yeah, just work stuff." Simple answer. Too simple. And that's when the first thought entered my mind. What if he's lying? I pushed it away, because doubt is uncomfortable, and trust is easier. But once that thought appears, it doesn't leave. It stays, quietly, waiting. And a few days later, it gave me a reason to listen. The moment I knew. It happened late at night. Adam was asleep. His phone was next to him, and it lit up. Just once. I wasn't trying to check. I wasn't looking for anything. But I saw the name, and then I saw the message. "Wish you were here tonight." My heart didn't break. Not yet. Because in that moment, I was still hoping there was an explanation. Something innocent. Something I was misunderstanding. But deep down, I already knew. And instead of reacting, I did something different. I picked up the phone, and I started looking. because if there was a truth hidden there, I needed to see all of it, not just part of it. And what I found was more than just cheating. It was a whole other life. The proof that changed everything: messages, dozens, then hundreds, not just flirting, not just talking, planning, meeting, lying, and then something unexpected, a recording, an audio file sent from him to her. I hesitated because once I played it, there was no going back, but I pressed it anyway. And what I heard changed everything. My hand froze for a second before I pressed play, because some truths you can never forget once you hear them, but I still played it. At first there was silence, then his voice, Adam's voice, calm, relaxed, different. "I'll figure it out soon," he said. There was a soft laugh in the background. Her voice. "You've been saying that for months," she replied. And then, the sentence that changed everything. "I just need to make sure I don't lose anything when I leave." My heart stopped, not because he was cheating, but because of what that meant. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't emotional. This was planned, careful, calculated. "I've already moved some money," he continued. "She doesn't even notice." I felt the room spin, because suddenly, everything made sense. The late nights, the secret calls, the distance. It wasn't just about another woman. It was about a plan to leave me with nothing. And the worst part? He sounded proud, confident, like he had already won. I paused the recording, not because I couldn't listen anymore, but because I didn't need to. I had heard enough. And in that moment, something inside me changed. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was focused. Because now, this wasn't just betrayal. This was strategy. And if he was playing a game, then I needed to play smarter. The most dangerous response. The next morning, I acted normal. Not trying to act normal, actually normal. I smiled. I spoke calmly. I made breakfast. And Adam? He didn't suspect anything. Because why would he? In his mind, I knew nothing. And that was my biggest advantage. He kissed my forehead before leaving. "I'll be late tonight," he said. I smiled. "Okay," I replied. Like everything was fine. Like my world hadn't just changed overnight. But the moment the door closed, my expression changed. Because now, I had a decision to make. React emotionally or respond strategically. And I chose strategy because I realized something important. If I confronted him now, he would deny everything. He would hide the evidence. He would protect himself. But if I stayed quiet, he would keep making mistakes. And those mistakes would give me everything I needed. The evidence grows. That same day, I started looking deeper, not just at his messages, at everything. Emails, bank accounts, shared documents. And what I found was worse than I expected. Small transfers. At first glance, they didn't look suspicious. But when you added them up, it was a lot. Too much. And they all went to the same place. An account I didn't recognize. But I knew who it belonged to. Her. I checked dates, matched them with messages, and suddenly, a pattern appeared. Every time he met her, money moved. Every time he lied, something disappeared. And piece by piece, the picture became clear. This wasn't random. It was planned. And I was the only one who didn't know. until now. What he thought of me. That night, I sat alone in the living room. The lights were off. The house was quiet. And for the first time, I let myself feel it. Not just the betrayal, but the disrespect. Because cheating hurts. But this was something else. This was him believing. I was too blind to notice, too weak to react, too dependent to fight back. And that realization, it hurt more than anything else, because it meant one thing. He didn't just betray me. He underestimated me. And that was his biggest mistake. Turning pain into power. The next morning, I made my first move. Not against him. For myself. I called a lawyer. Quietly. Carefully. And when I sat in that office, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like someone preparing for something important. I showed him everything. The messages. The recording. The transactions. He listened without interrupting. And when I finished, he leaned back and said something I will never forget. "You didn't just find proof," he said. "You found intent." That word changed everything. Intent. Because it meant this wasn't an accident. It was a plan, and plans can be exposed. Can be. "If we handle this correctly," he continued, "he won't just lose you. He'll lose everything he tried to take." And that's when I understood. This wasn't about reacting. This was about timing. Because the truth is powerful, but only if you reveal it at the right moment. Patience becomes power. The next few days, I became someone else. Not visibly, but internally. I stopped reacting, stopped questioning, stopped expecting anything from him. Instead, I observed every move, every message, every mistake. And the more comfortable he became, the more careless he got. More transfers, more calls, more lies. And I documented everything. Dates, times, screenshots. Because I knew when the moment came, every detail would matter. Letting him think he won. A week later, he sat me down. "I think we need to talk," he said. I nodded calmly. "I've been feeling distant," he continued. "I think we should take some space." Space. That's how he said it. Like this was mutual. Like we had both drifted apart. I looked at him, and for a moment, I almost laughed. Because he really believed it. He believed I didn't know. He believed I would just accept it. But instead, I nodded. "If that's what you want," I said softly. And in that moment, I saw it. Relief. He thought it was easy. He thought he had control. He thought he had already won. But what he didn't know was that he had just walked into the final stage of my plan. Because the moment he felt safe was the moment everything would collapse. The morning of the hearing felt different. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. Like the air itself knew something important was about to happen. I sat in my car for a moment before going inside. Not because I was scared, but because I was aware. Today wasn't about suspicion anymore. It wasn't about doubt. Today was about truth. And truth, once exposed, doesn't go back inside the box. When I walked into the building, I saw him immediately. Adam. He was already there, sitting straight. trying to look calm, trying to look in control, and beside him, her. The woman I had only known through messages and recordings. Rachel. She looked confident, too confident, like she believed this was just a formality. Adam looked up and saw me. For a second, just a second. His expression changed. Confusion, then caution, then something closer to uncertainty. Because I wasn't the same woman anymore. I didn't avoid his eyes. I didn't look away. I looked directly at him, calm, still, ready. And that silence between us said more than words ever could. Confidence. Before collapse. The courtroom was quiet, formal, controlled. At first, everything sounded routine. Names, dates, basic statements. Adam spoke confidently, too confidently, like he had rehearsed everything, like he believed nothing could go wrong. Rachel nodded beside him, supporting him, trusting him. And for a moment, it almost looked normal. But I knew better, because I had heard what he said when he thought no one was listening. And now, it was time for him to hear it back. The evidence appears. My lawyer stood up, calm, professional. Your Honor, he said, we would like to present new evidence. Adam shifted slightly, just slightly, but I saw it. The first crack. The judge nodded, and the first document was shown. Bank transfers, dates, amounts, accounts, all connected, all pointing in one direction. Rachel. The room changed, not loudly, but visibly. Adam leaned forward. These are normal transactions, he said quickly. But his voice wasn't stable anymore. It had started to shake. The moment truth speaks. Then came the second blow. My lawyer placed another file on the table. This, he said, is a recorded conversation. Adam's face tightened, because he knew, even before it played. The recording started. His voice filled the courtroom, calm, confident, careless. I just need to make sure I don't lose anything when I leave. A pause, then her voice. You're sure she doesn't suspect anything? His reply came instantly. She trusts me. She won't notice. Silence. Heavy silence. And in that silence, everything collapsed. Rachel slowly turned toward him. You said she knew, she whispered. But Adam didn't answer, because there was no answer left. When control disappears, my lawyer continued, calm, precise, unshaken. Your Honor, this demonstrates intent to transfer shared assets without disclosure. That word again, intent. And this time, it hit differently, because now, it couldn't be denied. Adam tried to speak, but the words didn't come out right. He looked at me, for the first time, not as someone in control, but as someone losing it. Rachel's expression changed slowly. Confusion, then realization, then disappointment. And that was worse than anger, because anger fights back. Disappointment walks away, judgment, everything reversed. The judge reviewed everything carefully. No emotion, no bias, just facts. Then he spoke. The transfers were acknowledged. The intent was confirmed. The pattern was clear. And the decision was final. Everything he tried to take was reversed. Every move he made, undone. Every plan he built, collapsed. Adam didn't speak, because there was nothing left to say. Rachel stood quietly. Then she looked at him one last time and walked away. No argument, no scene, just silence. Because sometimes that's the loudest ending. When everything ends quietly, outside the courtroom, the world looked normal again. Too normal. People were laughing, talking, living their lives, as if nothing had just ended inside that building. But for me, something had ended. Not my life, not my future, but the version of it I thought I had. Adam stood behind me, silent, for the first time. He didn't know what to say. He didn't have control anymore. No explanation, no excuse, no story left to tell, just consequences. And then I walked away, not slowly, not dramatically, just forward, because I wasn't going back. The real lesson. People think betrayal ends with heartbreak, but it doesn't. It ends with clarity, because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Adam thought silence meant weakness. He thought trust meant blindness. He thought love meant control. But he was wrong, because silence was just observation. Trust was just patience, and love doesn't mean ignoring the truth. It means knowing when to face it. And when I finally did, everything changed. Not just for him, but for me. Because I didn't lose myself in revenge. I found myself in truth. And that's the real ending. Not destruction, not anger, not revenge, but freedom.